What up? Mike here. We're going to be working on PowerShell today. This is very much focused in the vein of MCSA related studying. It seems that PowerShell is becoming more and more prominent as far as being a concept that administrators need to be familiar with. So I'm studying right now, and what I've been doing is doing a ton of research online, bought a couple books, and I'm kind of putting together a program here where we can go through step by step to do certain activities that are related to the MCSA. And what I've chosen to do for today's recording or lecture, I guess you could call it, is pretty much the scope of work of a start to finish setup for Active Directory. We'll also do a couple of the little extras in there. And then we're going to focus on creating the users and organizational units, or OUs, being able to modify your OUs and users, and creating bulk users using CSV files, which is actually probably going to be a lot of value because this is a skill that you should have both professionally and if you're going to be testing. As far as getting anything regarding in-depth administering for these users, restricting or giving access, NTFS permissions, we're not really going to get into that today. We might delegate administrative access, so a couple of our users can log into the server, for example, today. And I'm not even going to run that in PowerShell. I'm kind of saving that for another video because as is, this should probably run. I would imagine it's probably going to be at least an hour's worth of content getting through everything. Just some pre-work. If you're going to follow along 100%, I would recommend having Microsoft Office Excel or Open Office spreadsheets so that you can utilize that to create your CSV files when we do our bulk user deployment. And also having a spare computer that you can install the 180-day trial of Windows Server, or having some sort of virtual application where you can do that as well. So, let me shrink down my picture because you don't really need to see me like that the entire time. And let's look at some web pages. So if you go to Goggle or Buying, say Buying Goggle, you can just search Windows Server 180-day trial, try Windows Server 2012 R2. This is the link that you want to find right here. When you search, you can log in with your Microsoft account and basically just go and download your 180-day trial. Super easy peasy. Do it here through Google as well, same link. And you just basically download this. You get the ISO. You can either mount the ISO and do a boot from it on your virtual machine, or you can burn it to DVD if you actually have a physical computer you're going to do this installation on. You can probably Google that or search for it on YouTube, and I'm sure somebody's made a video. VirtualBox, virtualbox.org. You can download VirtualBox for free. You can use this if you have a powerful enough computer or server. You can use this to run a virtual instance, which is what I'm doing. I don't want to wreck my actual server that has Active Directory already configured for my domain. So I'm using a virtual server. So if I mess something up, no harm, no foul. Just do a checkpoint. We're done. OpenOffice.org. Here you can download your Apache. Make sure you type these addresses as well. That's one thing that people do for distributing viruses, is that they'll misspell some common home pages, and then you think you're going to the right one, but you're really downloading a virus. So make sure you spell openoffice.org or virtualbox.org is all written out correctly. But anyway, so moving on. My Hyper-V server is at 10.0.0.13, so I am going to open up remote desktop connection and connect to that server, and then we're going to launch Hyper-V, and we're going to get to work. So, I already had Hyper-V open. How about them apples? So Hyper-V looks like this if you're already got this stuff, and you can select what installation, what virtual machine you want to work on. I've got a Linux server, some Windows 8, Windows 10 stuff. Here's my practice server. That's that free trial that I downloaded. And I got a whole bunch of checkpoints. I got a checkpoint from when Chrome was installed, network configuration, Apache. I'm going to go on ahead and right click to apply for the checkpoint when I said that I'm clear to wreck the computer. I'm going to right click apply. I don't need to create a checkpoint and apply. No, I just want to go back in time. So it's now starting and it's pulling up my point in time. You can kind of see where there's a lot of benefit to running virtual systems for a multitude of reasons, especially if you can have checkpoints, hard drive redundancy, you've got problems, you can just go back in time and recover data or do whatever it is you got to do. So anywho, we got my server here. We're going to check the first thing you want to look at is changing the computer's name when you're setting up a server. If you go to your system window, which you can do a Windows pause break, I'm doing it via mouse here because if I do Windows pause break, it's going to give me the system information for either my gaming computer or the computer I'm remoted into. It's not actually going to do the virtual server, so I got to do things a little differently. But you see right here, we do not belong to a domain. It says work group, and then you also see here computer name is Win-55U855V09L6, which is just, that'd be a nightmare for an administrator to try to remember a name like that. Today's theme is going to be Star Wars, so we're going to create a server for the Galactic Empire, and therefore we're going to be using Star Wars related names. But in the real world, it'd be Active Directory server, Washington, corporate office. You name it something relevant to infrastructure and geography, company name, whatever. You're going to right click for PowerShell. That's our icon right there to start PowerShell and run as administrator. Now, one of the good reasons to learn PowerShell is there seems to be some stuff that will only work properly if you do it in PowerShell, and it also seems to be a very big part of the MCSA certification testing to understand PowerShell, understand your commandlets, and what the proper syntax is. So another thing you might run into is you might have some servers that literally are just running a command line, and you can do what's called the core installation, where when the server starts up, all you see is this prompt. Or you can do a full install like I have here with the user interface and then run a command that uninstalls the user interface, and all maintenance going forward from there has to be done in a PowerShell unless you restart the server. Catch 22 is if you set up your server with the user interface, uninstall the user interface, do a reboot, and then you put the server into production, meaning that it's functioning within your company, and you need to make administrative changes to that server while it's in production, you're going to have to know how to make your changes in PowerShell to do updates. Otherwise, you can't just shut down a production system, when it's supposed to be online and piss off 300 employees just because you needed to reinstall the user interface aspect of server. And keep in mind, if you can run your server without the user interface in a corporate environment, they say that that's going to be better security because there's less vulnerabilities for hackers and infections to compromise. At least that's what I've read. I'm not a software engineer, so I could just be lying to you. But anywho, I gotta stop saying that. I annoy myself when I hear recordings with me saying any hoot. Why can't I just say anyway or anyhow? So, first command, we are going to rename the computer, which will require a restart, which we may not necessarily do immediately. But you start typing here in PowerShell, and we're going to do rename computer, or you can just do rename com and hit enter or tab, and it tabs out the rest of the command for you. And normally I would be like rename computer Mikey or Office ADDS server Jax Florida, whatever, however you decide to do it. But for today, it's going to be Darth Server. And we hit enter, and it tells us the changes will only take effect once you've rebooted the computer. So, cool beans. Another command you can have some fun with, you got dollar bill, $host. When you hit that, it pulls up some information for your console. You can actually use the host to start manipulating your user interface. So let's say I'm going to do host.ui.raw UI, which this is the raw user interface, and I hit tab. I'm going to start seeing different options for things I can modify. So I can modify the background color. Great. What do we want the background color to be? I don't know. I'm kind of sad. Let's make it black. And now by using the clear command, which clears the screen for you, you type CLS, and look, now we've actually got a black background. We can also, I don't know, let's change the window title. So I'll type part of it here. I'll just type win and start tabbing. Win position, win size, win title. Oh, I need to go backwards. Shift tab takes me backwards. Win title equals quotes take no Sith. That's some Sith humor. If anybody's picking up what I'm putting down. And you see it immediately changes the header to say take no Sith. We can also change the time zone, which is a good idea because I'm 3 hours off here. This virtual server is 12:37 p.m. It's actually 3:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, as luck would have it, I know that the time zone utility is tzutil.exe. Hit enter, and this is pretty cool because it actually gives you some of the syntax. But to cut the BS, all we're focused on is getting that command right there. So I'm just going to do what it tells me. tzutil. I'll forgive you if you start singing Rage Against the Machine now that I said that. Quote, Eastern Standard Time. And if this works, it should instantly change to 3:37 p.m. And it's 3:37 p.m. Awesome sauce. So that takes care of that. If you wanted to set the date, you could do the date afterwards. And like, let's say it was, I don't know, 10:05, 15 seconds p.m. You know, you can go and do that, but we don't want to make the computer upset because it already has the right time. So we'll do something that's a classical command to know, which is just hitting the control key and leaving it pressed down while you press and release the letter C, and it'll break any command that you're running. So if we do a trace route to Google, if I can type, it starts running that. I can just hit Control C to break the command. Now I'm going to run that again so you see I really did break the command because it only gave us 2 hops. But what I also want to show you before we start getting into the meat and potatoes is that you can switch to command line. So in typical Windows, you open up command line. You could go to your run or search and type in cmd.exe. Here, I'm just going to type cmd and press enter, and it shows us that we just switched from PowerShell, which you see it highlighted right here in PS. I ran the command cmd, and it just switches us to command line. Now, the cool thing with PowerShell is that some of your commands from Linux and some of your commands from command line are going to work. So if I want to run that trace route command again for Google .com, I can, and now I can watch it do all of its hops and just let it fly. So yay, trace complete. So switch back over to PowerShell, easy peasy. Just type PowerShell, hit enter, and we move on with our lives. So a couple commands that are probably a good idea for you to do when you're setting up an Active Directory services and domain is new net IP. It's running slow tabbing out some of the things I'm asking for. What's wrong with you, dude? There we go. Net new IP address. So I'll hit enter here. Now I'm going to type in the IP address I want. Let's just say, I don't know, .51. And then it's going to ask for the interface alias. Here I know it's just Ethernet because all I have is an Ethernet card. So I'm just going to type Ethernet, hit enter, and we should get some output. IP address 10.0.0.51, interface index 12. There's some commands that will use that interface index. Ethernet address family is going to be an IPv4. Now here's the deal. You see where it says prefix length 32? An IP address or even your subnet gateway, it's always 4 expressions in IPv4. And each one of those expressions is called an octet. So your first 0 dot, that's going to be 1 octet, and that's a value of 8 bits. So these address addresses here can be divided into 32-bit. So if you have 4, it's 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, which equals 32. Now, if you notice, my prefix length is 32. So what that's telling me is that my subnet is now 255.255.255, which is no bueno. I want to switch it to the traditional gateway because this is in a real corporate environment that's going to have a larger subnet. I said gateway earlier, I meant subnet. So I want to keep it simple, stupid, and just do what we find in our traditional home networking equipment. So to get this value, I need to change my prefix length to 24. If I change it to 16, I would then be making the subnet 0.0. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and run a command. We're going to do set net IP address, and we are going to focus on the prefix length. So I'm not going to do the IP address. I'm just doing flag or hyphen. I call it flag prefix length 24. I'm going to hit enter, and it didn't spit back any arguments, any red letters telling me that I messed up, so it took it. We could do the same for setting up our DNS. You have a primary and secondary DNS. I'm just going to set it to Google because we don't have a large network to toy around with where I can actually send IP addresses to different places, and I don't want to get this mixed in with my current lab in my home. So we're going to do set DNS client server address. If I can type. I'm going to go ahead and just predefine the interface so it doesn't ask us for the interface alias. See, I could choose between index or alias, so I could do 12 or I could do Ethernet. I'm just going to stick to Ethernet, keep it simple. And then we're going to define server addresses. Google DNS 8.8.8.8. I don't even know how many times I said it. 8.8.4.4. So it should be 4 8s for the first one, comma 8.8.4.4. Hit enter. Again, it didn't yell at us. So, it looks like we are good to go here regarding that. So let's go ahead and clear the screen now that our... Oh, you know what? I'm going to give you one more. You can also run set net route. And here you can use the interface index. So we're going to use interface index 12. We're going to do next hop. That's going to be 10.0.0.1. What's the next hop? The next hop is your default gateway. That's the command line for setting up your default gateway. And you see it didn't spit any anger at me. It just went on ahead and accepted what I told it. So we are moving on. So we are going to install DHCP and DNS now. To get the Windows features, you're just going to type get Windows feature, and then you can hit enter if you want to get a list. And oh my god, that's such a long list. So you can scroll up and down, or you can be super awesome like me and do pipe more. And now we can look at these one page at a time. So maybe this is your first time doing this and you want to write down the names for your installs. So this is the display name for the different roles you can install on your server. This is the actual name you're going to call it out by on the computer. So if, or the server, or whatever, same thing, same difference, right? So Active Directory domain services is AD domain services. And you see the dashes there. This is part of the syntax. You got to use the right stuff. So you could go ahead and make a note of this to yourself and then also make a note, hey, we need to install DHCP and DNS. And we're going to install those two first and then install Active Directory services. Now, you can hit enter to go line by line on your search results. Or if you're done, you can just hit spacebar to do a page at a time. Or you can hit Control-C and it breaks the request for you. So I'm going to get my first page and then hit Control C, and now I've got the 3 services I need to reference to, boom, right up here. So like we did get Windows feature earlier, we're going to do install hyphen Windows feature to start installing some of these features. First one we're going to do is DHCP. I'm going to hit enter and I will pause. So I got some crazy lightning and thundering going on here. This is how fast the weather can change in Florida, but I am not going to stop recording. Hopefully my computer doesn't explode in front of me. But anyway, so this is what the message looks like when the DHCP server is done installing. Success true, restart needed no, exit code successful, feature resulted. We got DHCP server, and you can also go and validate it by doing this. You can do get Windows feature DHCP, and it pulls it up, and it shows that it's installed right here. We can also do just get Windows feature again, and we'll go ahead and do the pipe more because we just really need to look at the first page. And now, if you notice, DHCP server now has an X on it because it's installed. Control C to break the command, and that should get us back into a command line. Next, we're just going to install Windows feature, and I think we're doing DNS services now. And then last, we will install the Active Directory stuff. I'm going to pause the video here so you don't fall asleep. We'll get some time travel action going on here. Okie doke. So it's done with that installation. And lastly, we're going to install Active Directory. So remember, if you put it in wrong, it's going to spit it back out and yell at you. But I'll go ahead and pause out now and resume once this is done. All right, now that that installation has completed and we just did some time travel action here, I'm going to go ahead and restart the computer because I need that name change to take place before we actually make this a domain. So we're just going to go restart -computer, hit enter, and the computer is going to restart. Okay. Actions, Control-Alt-Delete, and then you're going to enter your administrative password. So you can do the Windows key pause break to get your system information. I'm working with this user interface here that's going to, it's kind of like the pre-Windows 8.1 Windows 8 where it doesn't even have a start button. You just got to click on the imaginary start button with the right mouse button and you get your options for what you can pull up. And while we're waiting, I just got to say I love Windows 8.1. It's a super stable operating system. You know, a lot of people hated Windows 8 because the start button went away, but I'm not too sure about that Windows 10. I haven't really sat down and tinkered too much. I've been too busy studying PowerShell for Server 2012. But anywho, so I'm gonna. I said it again. Why did I say anywho? Anyhow, I am right-clicking on the Start menu, and I am going to check System, and we'll see what we're looking at here. And our computer name is Darth Server. Yay! So that's righteous. So next, what we need to do is get that Active Directory domain actually alive and kicking. So I'm going to right click on PowerShell, run as administrator. Get that font size 20 happening. And the next thing we're going to do is install ADDS Forest. Now, it's not a bad idea if you're new to this to mess around with the user interface and do different configurations to see some of the things you can do. Because you can join a forest, you can change what level Windows Server is going to operate on. You can kick it back to 2008 and whatnot. This lecture is more focused on just starting to learn the in and outs of your syntax and getting used to using the PowerShell commandlets for the sake of getting ready for your test. So I'm not going to get too fancy with all that jazz. Plus, I want to get to making the bulk users. But anyway, so install ADDS Forest. Our domain name is going to be death.star. And this is going to be a long reboot. I'm not going to make you sit through all of it. It's also going to ask you for your password. This is a big administrative change, and this is, one of the important things about having Active Directory to control user accessibility and, what they can and cannot access and what they can and cannot do. Target server will be configured as a domain controller and restarted when this operation is complete. Do you want to continue with the operation? The answer is yes. I will type a capital Y and hit enter. And now it's going to install Active Directory Forest. And you're going to probably get about 6 warnings popping up over here. Sometimes you'll get a series of warnings and the computer just looks like it's still processing, but it's waiting for your input, so you can just hit enter and it'll respond to you. Other operations, it's just going to fly through it and automatically do your reboot. So I'm going to pause out this recording and we will continue when I have a successful reboot. So I'm unpausing here. I did have to hit enter one time to move my installation forward after I got 2 warnings during the install, and since then it's did the reboot process on its own. But I've been waiting at the screen for a bit, so I'm gonna pause again and wait it out, and I will continue recording when I have something to say. So you should have rebooted. And you should be logging in to your server with your Uber secret password. And look at that. Death.star. Awesome possum. So that's all stuff we would have done by clicking into this section. Here we just did everything by just typing into PowerShell, getting all of our stuff configured. The next step is going to be actually creating stuff that's going to go in here. And let me see, I think we got to run a few more commands before that's going to pop up. We're going to import module, and we are importing Active Directory. I'm just curious to see if it's going to show up here now. Maybe I'm crazy. I thought I should be seeing something there by now, but maybe not. We'll see. We'll find out. Then I'm going to do get child item AD, and here's a good way to check and see if you've done everything correctly thus far. If you go get child item and type AD colon, if you messed anything up, you're going to get errors right here. The reality of the situation is that we actually have an Active Directory domain, and the Active Directory's directory is AD colon. That's where you're going to go to start working within this region. Just like this is C drive right here, we need to change drives to Active Directory. So we're going to do CD AD colon. We're going to hit enter, and now we're in the Active Directory. Much like you would change to a different folder, we're going to change to our domain, and we have two domain values here. We have DC equals death, and then DC equals star, and you see it right up here, distinguished names. There it is right there for us. So I'm going to do CD DC equals DEA, and I'm just going to hit tab, and look, it found it for us. So that's where we're at so far, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set execution policy bypass, which I think what this does is just it will allow scripts and such stuff to run on your computer without that extra security measure. Not a good thing for your employees to shut off, but a great thing for you to turn off if you're actually building out a system or going to be running some batch files and stuff. So I'm going to hit yes. And see, it's designed to protect you from programs that you do not trust, but hey, it's just us working in here now, so we're safe. So we have the syntax for adding a new Active Directory organizational unit. So I'm going to pull up my little reference page here so we can look at this together. So the commandlet is new-AD organizational unit. The AD is a short for Active Directory. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to create one that says name is going to be Star Destroyer 555. And the city is going to be, typo, Galactic Space, bruh. This is the full syntax for all the sub things you can create for an organizational unit. You can find this online very easily. We're not going to deep dive into this because we're actually going to do some of these other components later on when we're doing the users, but I just wanted to pull it up real quick because what's basically going to happen is I'm going to type out new and do AD organizational unit. We're going to call it Star Destroyer, so I'm going to do flag name Star Destroyer, and now just for shits and giggles, we're just going to add one more value, and we're going to do city, and city is going to be Galactic Space, bruh. So, if the code is clean, we're going to hit enter and get no errors. We hit enter and we got no errors. So let's go back to server manager and let me see here. This is interesting. I'm not seeing the ADSI tools, so let's see if I messed something up when I installed Active Directory. So I'm going to take a break here from working on this stuff. I'm going to change directories back over to C, administrator, and we're going to install Windows features. I think I know what I forgot to do. So this is actually a big one. So now we're gonna, I'm missing some of my tools. So I'm gonna install Windows features. We're doing again the AD-domain services, and we're gonna include all sub features. We also need to include management tools and hit enter. It is actually going to install the sub features and the management tools, and this is the whole point of doing these types of exercises is that it starts refining your brain and you can start identifying, well, hey, where am I missing steps? Why isn't this working? When you're an administrator, you need to be able to use critical thinking to resolve these types of issues. And here I am clicking on tools, and I'm like, dude, where are my tools at? And I thought, well, maybe I'll give it a little bit more time and it'll populate. But no, it's me. It's user error. I needed to install those management tools. So I'm going to go ahead and select Active Directory users and computers now. If you're following along with me, you need to go back and rerun this command. You again, take a moment, pause the video, do whatever it is. You're going to want to install this stuff because we're going to use it for reference to validate that our code is working correctly. It's install dash Windows feature space dash name space ad dash domain dash services space dash include all sub feature space dash include management tools. And this is a beautiful line right here because this is the type of stuff you're going to see for other purposes that you're going to have questions asked about more than likely when you're taking your tests for the MCSA. I've seen them on some of the practice tests that I've scooped up, and the more you can learn, the better. But anyhow, we've got. Hey, I didn't say any hoot. Thank God. So we've got the Active Directory users and computers application is now available within Server Manager. And as you can see, the the organizational unit that we created earlier, Star Destroyer, is now here. We're going to look at the properties, and we got the city there. But let's just say I want to change the description. I don't know. Let's say that this guy's hit. I don't know. It's like the oldest ship in the fleet, and it's I don't know what 80 years old. So we're gonna go back here, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hit Control C a couple times and just clear the screen out so we can get back to our organizational units. And here's what we're going to do. The same command that would do a new organizational unit, you can just run set AD organizational unit. We don't need to worry about the name or the city, but we can do a description maybe. Description, ship is hella old, dude. And the identity is going to be Star Destroyer. And it cannot find it. Oh no. Oh no. I'm a failure. Let me go back to my screen over here and see if take a look at my server manager tools. Active Directory users and computers. Yeah, Star Destroyer. Well, I may have just messed up this recording. Oh, I'm a moron. I think this is what I needed to do. Identity is going to be OU equals Star Destroyer, comma, DC equals death, comma, DC equals star. And okay, yep, I'm glad we went over that. When you get asked for the identity for what you're trying to change, you can no longer just say Star Destroyer to make a modification to your organizational unit. When it asks you for the identity, it wants the organizational unit, then the domain, which we have two levels here. Level 1, DC equals death. Level 2, DC equals star. Keep in mind, a normal company, this would be like, cherrysoda.net, whatever. But anyway, we're going to just move along from that and check our application and see when I right click on this and refresh. Let's see if we got a description out of it. Yep, this ship is hella old, dude. So this right here pretty much captures editing organizational units and users. Experiment, mess around in your own environments with setting to see what you can do to start modifying your components. There's really just not a whole lot to it other than getting the practice in and the experience, so that you can start learning the syntax in and out, and you know everything's going to be awesome. So next, what are we going to do next? Next, we're going to add some users. So I'm going to do, let me see here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to Active Directory. What was it? AD colon, and I'm gonna get into the actual directories themselves. So I'm gonna do CD equals DC, or excuse me, I always mess that up. DC equals tab, change directory to death.star, and then I can change directories one more time if I wanted to, and go to my organizational unit. But for now, I'm just gonna make an account for Admiral Piet, and I just wanted to dump into the standard users folder. So we're going to do new AD user, and name is going to be Firmus Piet. And then I think is it Sam account name is going to be Firmus, or we'll do it backwards. We'll do Piet dot Firmus, and I don't know what else do we want to modify. Do account passwords, authorization type. Can I change password? Change password at logon, city, company, country, credential, department, description, display name. And for that, we can just make his display name a.piet, and that's how his name will show up. We're not going to worry about creating a password for him, but we will go through password here shortly. And this is why I like to put the quotation marks, because I get sad when I see black and red text. Just, it's very tragic. So let's try to do this real quick and see if that fixes it. Okay, no red means that the command worked. Beautiful. So we'll go back to Server Manager. Really need to get out of the habit of closing the Active Directory users window, because we will be referencing it back and forth. So users, see if I can find Piet. Oh yeah, that's right. We got to refresh. Oh, it actually created Firmus Piet outside of the environment, because I guess it just dropped it in straight to the directory I was in. So that would probably mean that if we wanted to specify where Piet was going, I would have to put flag path, and then we would do the quotation marks, and we do OU equals Star Destroyer, and you could do it that way, but that's going to be overkill for the sake of our demonstration. So I'm going to clear out the screen, and what are we going to do next? So we are going to, well, you know what? Let's go through removing a user. So let's do new. Well, let's first go into, let me think here. How are we going to do this? Okay, let me create the organizational unit first, because we're starting to get into the stormtroopers, because they're hiring way too many of these guys, even though I think they're clones, but Django Fett, I don't know, that whole thing just that stuff got me. So we're going to use the name ST Corps 001 to define our first core group of stormtroopers. I don't know what else to call it, so that's just the name I came up with when I kind of just wrote out my little demonstration here. So we're going to do new hyphen or AD organizational unit flag name, and I'm just going to go ahead and put here, I think it's one word, so we don't need the quotes, ST Corps 001, and now we're just going to do description is going to just be quotes corpse 001, and I wonder if we'll find Admiral Piet in the managed by option, because you can put who manages the user. Um, all right, if that doesn't work, we're gonna pull it because it's not pertinent to this course. We'll worry about that when we do a more sophisticated video, and I'll just do the postal code. Now, keep in mind you can do this for address and street and all that stuff, but I don't want to make this too ridiculously boring, so we'll try to minimize the boring. Zip code, we're just gonna make it 8675309, and here's one thing that's going to be fun to talk about. So, protecting things from accidental deletion is something you can do for organizational units, and you can do it for users as well. If you don't want something to get deleted, put on the protection, because then the only way to delete it is to go in and turn the protection off and then delete the actual item, which you could just imagine how catastrophic that would be for an environment. So let's say, for example, we have Darth Vader. He's going to get a user account, right? So, I'm just going to do the quick version of this example because I don't want to take too much time, but I think this is important to go over. So we create a new AD user, Darth V, in the house, yo. And that's his screen name because he's the boss, so he can have it be whatever he wants it to be. So when you go and you create that user account, the user gets something that's called a SID assigned to it, which is just some sort of crazy number. If you don't prevent Darth Vader's account from accidental deletion, aside from the fact that you're going to die from being choked by air, like so many people for this company, when you try to clean up the mess and you just think to yourself, oh, that's cool, they deleted Darth's account, I don't want to get choked out, so I'm just going to go ahead and create a new Darth V in the house, yo. I misspelled that, I put yeah, but we'll just leave it alone. When you generate that new account, it might show the same name to you, but we're just stupid humans. The machine world is going to see an entirely different number representing that security ID, that SID. So this is why you want to protect stuff from getting deleted when it's important, because you can seriously break things, and it sucks trying to clean up the mess after the fact. So back to the commandlets here. We're going to do a flag, and we have the option to protect from accidental deletion. And that command looks a little bit like this. It's protected from accidental deletion. If you want it protected, you have to put true. If you don't want it protected, you're just going to go and put false. So, we're going to create this organizational unit for ST Cores 001. No errors. Means that it worked, hopefully. Otherwise, I would just stop recording and go eat some ice cream. And there's our ST Core 001 organizational unit. We have 50,000 units in here. There's some HR investigations going on with, Darth Vader beating up some of the stormtroopers that lost some droids, and just all this craziness is going on. And, your noob junior admin just comes in and deletes that folder. Everybody's going to be really, really, really PO'd. So we're going to prevent disaster. I'm just going to press up, and I'm just going to change the simple value right here after the $sign. I'm just going to put true, hit enter, and what's going to happen now is when your noob junior admin for the Galactic Empire shows up, or maybe you got an angry stormtrooper that's he's quitting, doesn't care if he gets choked out by Vader's force choke. He just wants to start deleting stuff and wreaking havoc on your infrastructure. No, he's not. right there, Active Directory domain services. You do not have sufficient you do not have sufficient privileges to delete stcorp001 or this object is protected from accidental deletion. It even stopped me, who's the highest level administrator in this environment, from making that change, and that's the value in that. Because even if you try to run the command here, where well, is it remove? I don't know if it's remove or not. Remove organizational unit, and you try to put the value in. Let's see. It's going to ask us for the identity. OU equals ST corpse 001, comma DC death, comma DC star, and I hit enter, and I hit yes, please delete this. Boom, access denied. So good stuff. Good stuff to know. So we've got our organizational unit now created for our stormtroopers, and the bonehead way of creating accounts for stormtroopers is to do this. I'm going to do new AD user name, stormtrooper Sam account. Yeah, I don't know. We're just gonna call this guy ST blah blah blah. Now I'm not gonna remember that number. And you're just gonna start, one by one. Hey, what happens when you hire another 20 stormtroopers the following month and 10 get fired, and you're sitting here trying to remember what numbers did I use, what did I do, what's going on with all these stormtroopers, and the guy's name is Howard, and you're just here like trying to manage all these stormtroopers, and it's gonna take forever. Whether you're doing it with a mouse or you're doing it here in PowerShell, if you're trying to do a large workforce like that and not have some sort of bulk deployment, you're gonna hate your life. So I'm going in here to let's see here. Oh wait, actually, I think I created them in this directory. What directory did I put them in? Stormtrooper, where'd you go? Okay, well, first of all, egg on my face. I should have created the Stormtrooper inside the ST core volume right here, which the easiest way to do that is just do a change directory. OU equals tab until you see the group that you want. There's my Stormtroopers. And now I'm just going to go ahead and rerun that old script. So now, the guy already exists. So, let me create another one. Well, this guy's going to be Stormtrooper 2, and, I'll just throw some more numbers in here. The name provided is not a properly formed name. That's interesting. I wonder why it's doing that to me. All right, cool. I guess I didn't like something in there. But anyhow, again, this is the importance of sitting down and doing this yourself. Don't expect to walk into your test and just magically know PowerShell because you read about it. You got to get your hands dirty. So I now have a Stormtrooper that is in my Stormtrooper core folder, but we've already proven that this is an incredibly inefficient way to do this. So we're just going to go ahead and delete that guy and get him out of here. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to clear the screen, and we are going to go to your spreadsheet application. So I have a file called 25 stormtees, which is abbreviation for 25 stormtroopers, and I'm doing it the freebie way on Open Office because I'm tired of buying Office keys, especially with a bunch of virtual computers and stuff. I just don't want to deal with activations. And here's what you're basically going to do, and you don't even need to start with very much The first row, you're going to use these as different values in the flags that you're manipulating when you're creating your user account. So if you're creating 50,000 accounts, the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out, well, what are all the values that I want to manipulate? And you're going to want to keep them, whether it's 2 or 20, you want them all to be on line 1. And you see what we've chosen for today's example is given name, surname, name, display name, and then SAM account name. So the given name is something that, we're not going to worry about this with stormtroopers, or if this was a bunch of temp employees, like they all don't have to have their own specific given name, or it can be edited later as they're hired on. But what you do, want to do is make sure that you have some sort of numbering logic to this, because let's say, for example, so we put given name Storm, surname is going to be Trooper. We can even get that surname to match the 001, so that the last name and the first name are matching numbers. We can do it to the given name Storm also. You can put the numbers in here, and it doesn't have to start at 1. Like, let's say you're going to have employees 3,000 through 3,500 get hired. You would start this here at 3,000, and let me show you what happens. To get the numbering for the bulk users, you're going to click on this little tiny black square in the bottom right hand corner and just drag it down. And what ends up happening is that it starts numbering everything out for you. So you see how you can do 500 users at a time. You hire more people, you can do another 500. So this is a super powerful tool. So once you have all your let me get this guy fixed so he matches again. So once you have all your variables you want to affect listed out in the first row, and then you've got your first example set up in the second line, you can start creating your bulk users. And here's what's going to happen. What's going to happen is I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and and we're going to create 25 stormtroopers. So you're going to literally go. You're going to grab the little tiny black box on the far left, and we're going to drag it down all the way to 26, because your first line goes to your variables, so you always got to add a line. And we're literally just going to click and drag, easy peasy, like this, to start building out our bulk users. And then the next step after I'm done doing this is I'm going to just save this as a CSV file, comma, separated values. And, here we go. We got 25 stormtroopers, and they have, 25 points for their name. So we're going to do save as, and we're going to pick a spot to save this to. All right, so we're going to pick a spot to save this, and we want the file very easily accessible. It's, simplicity is just a beautiful thing. So as you see, I already have a CSV folder created under local disk C. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this file, but we want to save it not as an actual spreadsheet, but we want to save it as a text CSV. And when you do this, you should get a prompt that's going to tell you, hey, this is going to replace, or this is only going to save one of the pages, and you know what? It's fine as long as you have what you need from the CSV file and it's visible on the screen, and you're saving from that tab in your spreadsheet. It should save just fine. But we have a measurement for testing too that we're going to go through right now. So I'm going to keep in the current format, because it's telling me, hey, save it into ODF or into Excel format. No, dude, just save it in this format, please. So let the computer do what you tell it to do. We're going to hit OK. And now this is the warning. Saving the document, only the active sheet was saved. And that's what we wanted. I was only working on sheet 1, so don't let that become an issue. And I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and I am actually a moron because I needed to do this on the Hyper-V computer. Yes, I'm in the Hyper-V. Okay, good, thank God. Sorry, I thought I just created the CSV in the wrong environment. So this damn Inception computer within a computer. It's just driving me insane. So, yep, here's me verifying virtual machine. There's my file right there. So we're gonna go back into command line, and here's what we're gonna do. Not command line, PowerShell. Excuse me. We are going to change directory to C drive. Hit enter. Let's get directory and say, okay, cool. There's our CSV folder. So we're gonna change directory to CSV. And then from here, I'm going to go directory, and there's our file. So I'm going to do import CSV, and I'll type the number 2. It's only one file, so I should just find it immediately when I hit tab. But when I do this, it's going to show me the data from the comma separated values. And you see how beautifully it comes out here? It's, this environment is designed to understand, hey, everything that's on line 1 is going to get repeated over and over again per row of input that you have. So, you can do this with unique values if you wanted to, and I'm sure you'd find ways to save time doing whatever it is that you need to do. But for the sake of this lecture, if you look here, Storm 001, Trooper 001, ST001 is the name, the display name, the SAM account name. It's all here exactly how we wanted it. And look, it's broken out. There goes our second group of storm, or our second group of information for the second stormtrooper and the third stormtrooper, and so on and so forth. So we need to remember that this right here, this file exists in this directory. This is going to be important because it's not going to work if you don't specify the directory. We can pull this out from an import here, because we're already in the CSV directory. But remember, Active Directory, when you switch to AD:, you're going to a different part of the environment, so you don't want to let that confuse you. So Control-C to break the commands, and we're just going to go ahead and clear the screen. We're going to change directory to Active Directory. We're already back in the OU that we need to be in. So we're going to test out the first part of our code here, and or commandlet, excuse me. We're going to do import CSV, and if I remember correctly, it was C drive, not X, C drive, and oh, look at that. It found it immediately. So let's just go ahead and clean this up a little bit, and let's see if this works. Beautiful, pulled out the file. So here's the rest of our bulk users. So this is step 1 of creating bulk users. Get your CSV file created and validate that you can see it in the PowerShell environment when you import the CSV. If you've gotten past this point, now we can actually run the import CSV to create a host of a bunch of users. And remember, when we looked at the CSV, every time you have a new line of input, you're getting a new set of Stormtrooper information. Well, it's going to do the same thing when we pipe it into an actual commandlet. And here we go. Let's see how good this turns out. So we got the import CSV, C drive, folder CSV. There's our file. We've already verified it. And now we're going to start creating the rest of our commandlet. You're going to do a pipe. Then we're going to do new AD user enabled. Now this is, I'm going to pause here. I'm sorry if this is getting annoying, but it's important information. So if you create the account instantly enabled, and let's say you're setting this up for a temp telephone office, where you got 200 employees that are working temporarily for a fundraiser, and you just need a temporary configuration for Active Directory for these employees. If you enable 200 employees that you're creating all at once, what's going to happen is that every single one of those employees are going to end up having the same initial password. So what I would recommend doing to minimize security risk is disabling the employees unless you're creating a batch of employees that are going to orientation together, because otherwise, let's say you're a new hire in a company, your employee number is 3002, and your first time password is start123. You type in start123, you can set up your password as your user account and access whatever systems you need to. If the Active Directory administrator has employee 3005 that's not been hired yet and their password is start123, you can log in using the same password, getting in under a different username. So you typically don't want your accounts enabled and floating around in the system. It's a security risk. This is just a fun lecture that we're doing to mess around and get some hands on. So I'll go ahead and leave the accounts enabled from the get go. But in real world, you really want to sit down and think about the decisions you're going to make here. If you don't want the accounts enabled, you're going to end up putting $false after your flag enabled. So here we're going to go ahead and do true and let them be enabled. What do we need to do next? Account password. This is actually some really nice syntax here. Account password. So I looked up several different formats for doing this, and I bumped into this one several times on several different web pages and resources. I think even the Microsoft resource for PowerShell. And this one's the one that seemed to work the best, so I'm just sticking with it because I like commands that don't give me errors. So I'm doing account password parentheses convert to secure string. So I'm just going to keep hitting tab until I get convert to secure string. I typed out convert and then hit tab. And now we're going to put in our password, which is going to be Darth server. But to make it more secure, we're going to use numbers and symbols. So it's capital D for lowercase rth, capital S, 3v3, lowercase r, exclamation mark. It's a mouthful. Lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. As plain text right here. And we're going to go on ahead and use the flag force because, I mean, after all, this is Star Wars. There's no Star Wars with no force. Just for shits and giggles, we're going to put in a city, Mos Eisley. I'm also a huge Transformers fan. Maybe the next one I do, we'll do a Transformers themed PowerShell server configuration. And last one, just forgetting the feel of having several different values. We're just going to go ahead and do a state as well. Remember, you can just type the flag or the hyphen and just start hitting tab and start getting other things. Like account expiration date. That's great, dude. You're a contractor. You're hired on for 90 days to help us with the construction of the Death Star. Well, you're done, bro. You're done. You gotta get another contractor. You're not allowed on the premises. So you can have all sorts of fun with stuff like that. But this is it right here in all of its glory. And we're about to find out if this is going to run or not. So here we go. And it looks like we had a successful bulk user deployment because I didn't get any errors or warnings. So I'm going to minimize this. And we're going back to Bobo Windows. I can click on stuff. Windows. Just to go on ahead and validate our work. And I don't mean to downplay this because there's a lot of value in knowing how to use the software with the user interface, but I think it takes your learning and understanding of the system to a higher level when you can function within PowerShell. Plus, your friends are going to think you're really cool. So let's refresh our domain. Domain has been refreshed. And now we got ST Corps 001. You could just imagine this. Like, you could have 100 of these organizational units with 25 stormtroopers per core. Somebody transfers departments. It's just a matter of moving that stormtrooper to another organizational unit. The guy's going from Tatooine to Endor. I mean, these changes need to be made. You don't want to just have 8 million Imperial employees in one folder and try to manage them like that. You'll go nuts. But here's our users. They're all enabled. And, we take a look at the properties. The first name is Storm001. His last name is Trooper001. His display name is Trooper001. So all the stuff that we did took into effect. User logon. Here we go right here. This guy's a member of the Death domain. And his logon is ST001. So it worked. It did what we needed it to do. Now, since we're in I'm going to do some quick stuff here just because I'm going to log these guys back into a server to test out their accounts. I'm just going to make them administrators real quick because I'm not going to set up another computer and, have it join the network. Yep, nope, yep, not doing that now. We're going to go easy peasy. So ST001 and ST002 are going to be added to the group administrator. Let's test out their accounts and let's see if they're working or not. So I'm going to go administrator and I'm going to lock. I'm going to switch user. I'm going to do actions, control alt delete, log in as another user. Now it tells you here that you're signing into death. So metal. Tells you here that you're signing into death, but if you want to be Mr. Fancy Pants Administrator, you can actually just change your domain around by typing the domain. So if I was going to go into, Rainbow Bright domain or, My Little Pony Hello Kitty domain, I could just type it out right there, put my backslash, and then, put in my username, Pink Sparkles Rainbow Dust, whatever. Stick with Star Wars. So I'm going to do death ST001 and then our password was Darth server. Enter. And the profile works. And this is the way it would work. So if you imagine yourself adding all these Galactic Empire computers all to the same domain, you have all these domains scattered all over the universe and they're all talking to each other. When you go into Active Directory and you create a user, you can control that user's access and you're going to be able to control what computers they can log into. This guy was just able to log into the administrative server because we made him an admin, which is a terrible idea. The guy's just a stormtrooper. These aren't the droids you're looking for. All right, anyways. So, I'm going to go back to the start menu, or if you're using, you should be on the same format as me because it was recommended that you follow along with Server 2012. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to log back in as our administrator. That's right, the tab doesn't work here. Administrator. And we're back with my awesome wallpaper. And this is what's going to happen. So ST002 turns out that Luke Skywalker beat the crap out of this guy and stole his uniform and created some ruckus on the Death Star. So what's going to end up happening here is we need to disable this guy's account because HR's pissed. They don't want this type of charade, and they need this guy's credentials closed out and access closed off to the system just in case Luke Skywalker has his employee card and he can swipe into God knows what. I don't know, use your imagination. But anyways, we're going to disable AD account is the command. And what AD account are we disabling? Well, we're going to disable ST002 because he's a pansy and Luke Skywalker kicked his butt when he barely knew how to use the Force. So, a couple ways we can verify this. Way number one is we're going to minimize our PowerShell and just go back to the user interface and under Active Directory, users and computers. And if you forgot already, we pulled this up from Server Manager under Tools. You can go over here, you right click on your domain, you're going to click refresh, and let's go to ST Core and look at that. You got a little tiny symbol. You probably can't see it on this video, but trust me, it's there. You have a little tiny symbol next to ST002 saying that this user has now been disabled because it's really Luke Skywalker, and if he has this guy's credentials, he could just delete a whole bunch of stuff, except for the stuff that's protected from deleting unless he knows PowerShell. Let's test it out real quick. Lock. I'm going to switch user. And we are going to log in as under user. As other user, we are ST002 under the death domain. Password, Darth server. Your account has been disabled. Please see your system administrator. Well, if that doesn't spell getting fired, I don't know what does. So, but our stuff is working, our infrastructure is working, and if you've been following along, I hope this stuff is working for you too. I had to go through a lot of these processes several different times, and I still get errors and still have syntax issues. That's the whole point of sitting down and making the time to learn this. The last thing that I'm going to leave you with is the command. I'm going to laugh if I mess this one up, but is the command for resetting a user's password, because apparently that's what most Active Directory admins do. You spend a lifetime learning all this fancy stuff just to sit in an office and reset user passwords all day. And you know, it's a very boring life, very lackluster. But it is something that you should know how to do. So we're going to do set AD account password. ST002 now has his gear back. We're going to reactivate his account, but before we do that, we want to make sure that Skywalker doesn't have his personal password, so we're going to just reset the password for this dude. And now you can enter the desired password, and you can do this to, call him up and tell him, hey, your password is going to be kicking tacos 25 exclamation mark, and they'll know, hey, I just got to type that password in for my first time login. They can log in securely and change their password, and they'll be good to go. So I'm just doing Darth server again because I don't want to have to think of any more passwords. I deal with too many in my life as it is. No errors, no warnings. That means that we successfully completed the task, and that's how you reset a user's password. Remember the differences between install versus new versus get versus set. That's making the difference between a new user versus setting an existing user's account, removing the user. And I hope that this time you spent with me has been worthwhile for you. And that you get some sort of benefit out of it. This is all the curriculum I planned on going over today. So with that said, I want to thank you for joining me, and I wish you the best in your endeavors. Take care.